Call the meeting to order. I will ask Sue, thank you everybody for being here this evening. This is so nice to see so many people. Haven't seen a lot of people. I spend my days at home working, so nice to see a lot of folks that are not in front of a screen. I'm going to ask Sue if she'll do a roll call vote, please.
Brian Stepanek. Here. John Sayer.
Here.
Jessica Lenave.
Present.
Carrie Germain.
Present.
Chuck Mulkey.
Here.
Alyssa Parks. And Alicia Gardner, both absent.
And Mrs. Parks and Mrs. Gardner send their regrets. They were not able to join us this evening, but we will participate as a group. So I would now invite all of you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. And if the young folks in the group could please help us lead that. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. All right, next on our agenda, we have public comment. I'm going to suggest that it be moved down to below the board appreciation, which is currently number 7 on our agenda. And with that recommendation, I would entertain a motion for approval on our consent agenda. Chuck?
Support.
Jessica? All righty, any comments or questions?
Would that be agenda specific?
That will be not agenda specific. Okay? And so Sue, could you do roll call, please?
Carrie Germain.
Yes.
Chuck Mulkey.
Yes.
Brian Stepanek.
Yes.
John Sayer.
Yes.
Jessica Lenave.
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. All right, moving on. We have the selection of board officers. And I think all of us have gone through this previously, but just as a reminder, we will start with the president and succeed with vice president, then secretary and treasurer. We will accept nominations and we will vote on those nominations in the order that they were received. So I would begin with the office of president.
I nominate Carrie Germain.
I support that.
Any other nominations? Hearing none. Any comments or questions? Sue, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes. Brian Stepanek.
Yes.
Chuck Mulkey.
Yes.
John Sayer.
Yes.
Jessica Lenave.
Yes.
And Carrie Germain.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. All right, moving on to vice president. I would accept a nomination.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Brian Stepanek.
I'll support.
Okay. Jack, Jessica? Any other nominations? Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, Sue, could you do roll call, please?
Jessica Lenave.
Yes.
John Sayer.
Yes.
Carrie Germain.
Yes.
Chuck Mulkey.
Yes.
Brian Stepanek.
Yes.
5 yes.
All right, moving on to secretary. Do I have any nominations?
I support Jack Sayer, or nominate Jack Sayer.
Okay. Any support?
I support.
All right, any other nominations? Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Sue, would you do roll call, please?
Brian Stepanek.
Yes.
Chuck Mulkey.
Yes.
Carrie Germain.
Yes.
John Sayer.
Yes.
Jessica Lenave.
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. And finally, treasurer.
I nominate Jessica Levine.
That's not who I am. Lenise. Just kidding.
The girl to my left. The lady to my left. The masked person to my left.
I hear Jessica
The person
Lede,
speaking to my left.
and we have support. Any other nominations? All right, hearing none, though. Sue, would you do roll call, please?
Jessica Lenave,
Yes. Thank you.
John Sayer,
Yes.
Carrie Germain,
Yes.
Chuck Melkey,
I don't know that person. But I'm sure. Yes.
and Brian Sapanek.
Yes.
5 yes.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone, and it's a pleasure to continue in this role. Thank you very much, and to continue to work with all of you. It's been a really great experience, and I'm glad that we can continue this. All right, moving on, we have school board appreciation, and that goes to Ben.
Thank you so much. I first of all thank all of you for showing up tonight and for being here to show support to our board who volunteers so much time and energy to making what the school district does possible. I'd like to take a brief moment to share the proclamation from the governor. And this comes from the State Board of Education and the governor of the state of Michigan. And it's the State of Michigan State Board of Education and Governor Whitmer's proclamation recognizing Local School Board Member Recognition Month is January 2022. Whereas Michigan is home to nearly 600 locally elected school boards that work to enrich the lives of Michigan students through education and directly influence instruction in Michigan's public schools, and whereas local school board members are exceptional public servants who have committed themselves to this duty by governing school districts and advancing student achievement in the schools and communities they serve. And whereas during this month, we join the Michigan Association of School Boards, Michigan Department of Education, local school districts, and community organizations to recognize and raise awareness of the countless efforts and contributions of local school boards and school board members throughout Michigan. And now, therefore, the proclamation says, I, Gretchen Whitmer, Governor of Michigan, do hereby proclaim January 2022 as School Board Recognition Month in Michigan. So if everyone here could just give them a hand for their service and appreciation.
Thank you. Thank you.
As a special treat tonight, we have some guests from the different buildings that would like to share a little something with the board. And so we'll start with the high school. And Mr. Kitchen, if you would come up and share what's in store for us this evening.
Yes. Obviously, thank you very much for all you do. You are appreciated. I know that you have to make lots of hard decisions. It's a challenge, and I wonder, why you subject yourself to that sometimes. But you do a wonderful job, and we appreciate you. We have a couple of special presentations for you. I'd like to start. It's interesting to me when I was at the elementary building and the Madrigals would come and visit. I was just in awe of this group. As we push excellence in our district, this group is excellent. And it is a pleasure to be able to represent them here. And they would like to share a couple of songs with you tonight. And they're two of their most famous Christmas songs. So Madrigals, if you'd please come forward and share with us.
Ding dong
silver bells all seem to say, throw kids away. Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old. Look in the book, ding dong dong, God is a song, ding tambourine, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they brown praise in the sun, roll in the dance, hark in the drums, gaily they ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding, merry, merry, merry Christmas song, ding, merry, merry, merry Christmas song, ding. All they send over the land, they jump a song to hurry on. Oh, how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw all cares away. Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old. Look in the book, ding, ding, dong, that is a song, ding, tambourine, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they brown praise in the sun, roll in the dance, hark in the drums, gaily they ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding, merry, merry, merry Christmas song, ding, merry, merry, merry Christmas song, ding. On and they send gone without end their joyful tone to every home. Ding dong, ding dong.
Thank you, Mr. Luke and Madrigals. They make us proud. Every time they go on and sing, they came to all of our lunch periods during Christmas time and sang for all the students. Did a wonderful job. Thank you. So we have another group, and I wanted this group to come tonight because 2 years ago we came to you requesting for this program, and you voted for this program and said that we can do it. 2 years later, numbers just keep soaring in our construction trades class. We have 2 teachers now who teach it, Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Fuller. And they're here tonight, and I'm going to turn over to Mr. Fuller so he can talk to you about the progress of this fine program.
Thanks, Mr. Christian. Evening, folks, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Superintendent Micah. Well, as you can see, the old saying, from a silk purse, or sow's ear to a silk purse, this is what we started with. And when I went in, when Mr. Christian asked me to teach this class, I looked at that and said, holy mackerel. Maybe not quite that way. But anyways, tonight I brought some of the crew here, and I'd like the students to kind of, and as a matter of fact, we have one in the Madrigals, Tanner, who's one of Mr. Lawrence's students, but they'll go ahead and introduce themselves, and they brought a little token of their appreciation for you. Now, it can be like a white elephant. You don't have to stick with what they give you. You can trade it off. But I'll go ahead and hand the microphone off to each one of them, and then they'll grab what they've got and what they've built and bring it to whomever they'd like. So.
Hello, my name is Bailey Ruby, and a year ago, if I were told that this class was available, which I had no idea at the time, I would have never thought it's something I would have taken. But now that the opportunity presented itself, I don't regret taking it for a minute. This is one of my favorite classes, and I think regardless of any school subject, this is the class that I've learned the most in, and the most that will follow me through life. So I thought that the first thing I would do when I heard of this project, I would challenge myself. And one of the things I wanted to do was use a tool that I had never used before, the jigsaw as it's called. And there were some struggles, but I worked through it, and I'm really proud of what I ended up making. Thank you.
By the way, Bailey's going to be going to Kettering University in the fall.
Good. Good job.
My name is Sophie Dell, and I really enjoy the class, as most people do. It teaches a lot of things that are really useful in future things, like careers and just in life in general.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicholas Cosby. I came to Swartz Creek 2 years ago, right when this class started. So when I was signing up for the classes, I seen that on there. I was like, man, I got to do that one. I do construction, so I'm kind of used to it. At the tail end of the year, Mr. Fuller came up to me and he was like, "Hey, I got an offer for you. You know, if you want to stick with this next year, I'd love to have you helping me run the classes." So I took that offer. I actually took that over GCI. I was going to go over there for welding, but I was like, I cannot turn this down. You know, the way he runs class is amazing, and to see how far it's come, it's pretty cool. I did learn a few different ways of how to do something, to look at a different perspective of his viewpoint on something. It was just awesome. Built a few different things. Chicken coops, actually built one for kitchen, so I think he likes it. Awesome. I also built for myself this year, well, last year I built a gun safe table. Burnished it, polyurethaned it, and then recently I built an extension for it because I was like, man, that's not enough. Got to do something else, you know, keep myself busy. And then a couple other ones just on the side. So it's been pretty fun.
This particular project, the student's not here this evening, couldn't make it, but we're going to have Nick present that one. And if whoever ends up with that, you will put your address numbers on it and some solar lights, so it's kind of a neat one. And this is what happens when you keep the payments up for students. They say good things about you. So the payment's in the mail, Nick.
No need.
Hello, my name is Brian Sefrenick. Yeah, as these fine people have said, came into this class, you know, obviously because I really enjoy having Mr. Fuller, not only as a home improvement teacher, but as a teacher in general. He's really, especially with this class, he's matured me a lot because eventually, you know, I'm not going to be living in my parents' house for, you know, ever. Going to be on my own, and eventually there's going to be a leak or there's going to be something that needs fixing, and he's really helped me out a lot. And something that I've stuck with now is at the beginning of the year, I didn't even know how to read a tape measure, and that was the first thing we learned about is how to read tape measures, and something we're doing right now, which unfortunately is not here, but we're currently working on our chicken coops, and yeah, something I really enjoy about the class is just having the ability to work with others. And the thing that I take away from this whole year taking this class is there's always someone you can talk to, and there's always someone you can work with. The thing I like about it is there's always someone you can work with. And he does a very good job of saying, hey, if you need assistance, we got students that are better at other jobs than others, and they're like, there's always someone to help someone else in the class. And yeah, as you see in this picture, we're getting ready to paint some of the wood for the chicken coop, which, like I said, unfortunately can't bring it here. But yeah, overall, amazing teacher, amazing class. Yeah, I want to get these things off to you guys.
And Brian, you get double the normal amount?
Good evening, I'm Killian. First of all, I would just like to say beautiful job, Madrigals. You guys are amazing. If you would have told me that I would be here in middle school, I'm a sophomore right now, I would never have believed you.
Thank you, young man.
I was terrified.
Thank you.
But through this class, I have learned so much and I've experienced so much, and I love the creativity and the freedom with it. We get to do whatever we can think of, and I love that freedom. And then we have such a diverse class as well. You can see just by looking at all of us, none of us are similar. Like, you get to meet so many cool people, and I just love being in that environment. Mr. Fuller's great. He helps us so much. If we ever don't know what we're doing, we can just ask him, and we get some help, which is, I mean, what a teacher should do, but it feels welcoming.
And this one double dipped tonight, Mads and us.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanner Wykes, and I am in Mr. Lawrence Sell's construction trades class, but I have had the opportunity to work with Mr. Fuller multiple times, and the times that I have were if I was getting behind on a project and needed a little extra time, Mr. Fuller was more than welcome to let me come down during his hour to work on a project, and it's been nothing but an awesome experience to work in this class and to just finally be able to learn actual techniques for construction, because I've always been a hands-on kid. I always loved doing things with my hands and making things, but, it was just kind of a put it together and hodgepodge it until it was, done. But, being able to actually learn the techniques and use different tools to let your creativity flow has just been an amazing experience that I will probably take with me for the rest of my life. It's been nothing but good things from this class, and yeah. I think that covers it.
And as you can see in the picture, actually this is Mr. Kitchen's coop that Nick, his crew worked on last year. And I'm going to put in a really bad plug because we have 3 of these babies that we're needing to sell. They had been 2 of them actually spoken for, but it turns out the folks looked into it and their municipality said you can't have chickens. So, but that's just the coop. There's actually a run that goes with it. But yeah, it's fun working with these great kids. As Killian said, we're one end of the spectrum to the other in that school, and it's a wonderful experience for sure. They'll be earning certificates, one for residential electrical, which will be coming up next semester. They'll be able to take that on a job site and say, I can do some of these basic skills. It's a pre-apprenticeship, a certificate. And another one will be for rough carpentry. When we get up and running in the new section of the school, instead of chicken coops, which gives them a chance for rough carpentry, a little bit of electrical, a little bit of everything, we'll actually be doing some maybe sheds, roughing out walls, different things like that. So, but did I miss anybody that came tonight? Oh, yes. I knew Jason, come on. And so I also wanted to bring somebody that has a project going, he's been working on it, and the students, these are their personal projects. I have assigned projects, then they also get a chance to pick whatever they want, and I wanted him to bring this tonight, so here you go.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason. I also go by my middle name, which is Joaquin. Here's my nightstand. Yeah, turn around, thank you. It's a work in progress. I'm not done with it yet, but yeah, I built that in his class. So a little bit about me. I'm a little handy. I like to do stuff with my hands. I have a hard time sitting in the same place, just sitting in a seat. So when I heard about this class, I got pretty excited, and yeah, Mr. Fuller's a really nice guy. I'm not really good at public speaking, but yeah. Yeah, thank you.
You did a fine job.
All right. Thank you very much. I just wanted you to see firsthand the impact your decisions make. So thank you for all that you do for the high school. I'm going to come up and just put your items on the floor in front of you also.
Thank you so much, students, and very, very impressed with all of your skills. If we could have the middle school, I think Mrs. Titsworth's probably here.
I'd like to just start by saying all these fine kids, they were with me a few years ago, and they're all grown up now doing amazing things. I miss all of you, and holy cow, the things that you have done, that's absolutely amazing. So our batch of middle schoolers that we have right now, they have a little gift bag for all of you, and it truly speaks to what our board really does for us. Without your guys' support, without your guidance, without your encouragement to take that leap, to try new things, to really stick your neck out and persevere and just go big. That we couldn't do it without you guys. I mean, between all of we're so excited to have all of these bond projects coming to their finally now looking like they're supposed to look, and we're really excited to do all the STEAM stuff. We again are going to be, our kids are participating in the Kettering Innovations projects, You'll all be getting an invite to that very soon, and I hope you can make it over to see what all of our sixth graders are doing. Our Project Lead the Way courses, where a lot of, like Joaquin, our kids get up and they're creating things and just pushing the envelope on all sorts of different things and different perspectives. I know another one of you talked about perspectives and ways to look at problem solving. We have another huge, going along this line, our teen survival class is another big thing that Mary Rock has taken and is really pushing and wanting to grow that in our kids and parents. Love that. They make some very fine meals that they feed us throughout the weeks. Sometimes they have a different food each week. They've done sewing. They've done, it was hilarious the other day in the office. A button fell off and they were like, another student was like, go down to Mrs. Rock's class, and they all know how to sew a button on now. So just knowing that like these things are supported by all of you, and you're pushing us and encouraging us to keep going. You truly are in your little gift bags, the key to our success, our building blocks. And then I also wanted to let you know the quote in there. Carrie, can I see yours? One thing that we absolutely love, and this really meant a lot to us, is that the beautiful thing about learning is that no one can ever take it away from you. So in this little picture, you guys can see almost 900 of our kids' names make up that dragon. So.
Oh.
And another one of our courses that our kids have really taken, they have gone beyond yearbook. It was just supposed to be the yearbook class, and then they wanted to go bigger. So they now do our everyday announcements, which we had a student that actually, Tony and Nate and I got a message sent from Carrie Bell. He's been in speech and had kind of a speech impediment forever, and he did announcements all by himself the other day, and he was just beaming. He was so excited for himself. So they have created this all on their own. There was no adult helping them. They created this, and we hope you enjoy it, and we're so very thankful for all of your support.
Thank you.
Greetings, Swartz Creek School Board.
The past few years have been unlike any other.
And it has changed how we view education.
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic,
We have seen schools shut down.
Students learning online.
Parents stepping into the role of the teacher.
Teachers teaching remotely.
Many things have changed.
But one thing has stayed the same. Your commitment to excellence in education. Thankfully, our school building has remained open this year. We are able to safely learn in person because of you. Thank you for making sure that we have the resources we need to remain safe in school.
So today and every day, we say thank you to you.
Thank you for your unwavering support of our education.
Thank you for your continued support of the staff.
Thank you, School Board, for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the school board for the sports.
Thank you, school board, for all that you do.
Thank you, school board, for helping the students.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Board of Education.
Thank you, board members.
Hi, I'm Mary Rock. I'm a teacher here at the middle school, and I just wanted to say thank you to all of our board members for the time that you spend outside of your own personal lives to serve and help better our school and our community. Thank you.
That is awesome. Thank you to the middle school. And if you can pass our thanks along to the students and staff, it's excellent. Maybe we could start with, at the elementaries, we want to do Gaines next? And you could do Deke right after that.
Hi, everyone. We are so excited to share with you a video for our token of appreciation. So we have a new specials teacher, Mrs. Danielle Letter. She is taking care of all of the things at Gaines, technology, gym, art, music. And so we also have a teacher, Kelly Butts. They have started student council out there. So this is our student body and our student council presenting their appreciation.
My name is Adeline, and I am Gaines Elementary Student Council President. January is School Board Appreciation Month.
We wanted to take this opportunity to tell each and every one of you how much we appreciate you.
We have learned that the school board is very important.
The Board of Education makes important decisions about our curriculum, volunteers their time, makes big, important decisions that impact our education, and listens to represent our community.
The school board creates opportunities for our students to learn as much as possible, and they look out for our best interests.
Marion Ray Edelman said, education is for improving the lives of others and for leaving your community and world better than you found it.
We thank you for supporting our education, our community, and our world.
Thank you!
We all appreciate everything you have done and continue to do for us.
From all of the students, staffs, and teachers at Gaines Elementary.
Happy School Board Appreciation Month!
So we just wanted to say thank you for all that you do, and we appreciate you. And so now I'll invite Mrs. Wildy up. We have a combined gift for the Deke Cyrene folks. So Mrs. Wildy will share what's in our token bag.
So, of course, Katie and I have to stand up here together because we are a team and we represent the West Side together, right?
Do you have a sign of some sort?
Yes, we do. You have to say it, West Side. We represent the West Side of the district, K235. And you have a T-shirt, board members, in front of you that says Cyrene Deke One Family, because we truly do support the families K through 5. 2 schools, 1 family, Cyrene and Deke. Thank you. We support those families all the way through, and we work together very closely. And our teachers are teaming, and our students are growing as a result. So thank you very much. Also, you have a little wood name tag.
Those were created by students. Yep, Mr. Melgi has that on. So those were created by students in the Deke makerspace. They were used with the laser printer by the students. So the students used the program, and then they, of course, had adult supervision for those to be cut out. And so those are all name plates that were student created and then laser cut out.
So we do appreciate so much, and we know, maybe where others don't, that it's not just your time here at board meetings, which can be quite lengthy, but the reading and the study, the trainings that you have to attend, other committee meetings that you attend throughout the week and the month, and we know that all of that can weigh heavy on your personal lives, so we do appreciate all the time and dedication that you show to our school district. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Simonson?
Good evening. I'm Dave Simonson and Alice Lashbrook, principal at Elms Road, principal at Morrish. We've brought a couple of our fine students here, daughters of Mrs. Preer, but they're students at our schools. So, they're going to deliver your little goodie bags there. Just wanted to say how much we appreciate all of the things you do. I know we get personal notes or emails from you and letting us know that you're thinking of us, and we really appreciate that. And for most of you, I've had at least somewhat of a personal connection, with very few exceptions. I've had all of your kids through my school at some point. Some of you have had through my school at points. So, you know, it's really great to know that we've got people tied to the community that are here and care about it and are working so long and hard for it. I know we've managed through a lot of change, COVID being very difficult to lead through, so we appreciate all the time And I'll let Mrs. Lashbrook talk about the gifts. There is a laser created something in there that was not student created because we haven't had the laser as long as Deke, but very soon we will have it student created for you. But it was created on the machine that was brought over to our STEM lab there, so it is a school creation, and you can fill in on the rest.
All right, so in your bags, we've given you all the Moorish Elms t-shirt. Like Cyrene and Deke, we are one family as well, and so we are Dragon Strong, so you all have a shirt there. In the yellow sheets, some wonderful early 5 artwork for you to maybe look at and admire. Also in there is the elementary need-all, be-all Poppets. So you all have your own Poppets because they are a hot item in the elementary level. And then, as always, we like to try to sweeten you up, so we've given you some chocolates as well. So thank you. Thank you, thank you. You want to say thank you?
Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So I will let my fellow board members thank you, but thanks to all of you for being here tonight, from the beginning with the Madrigals, Mr. Luke, Mr. Kitchen, thank you for bringing your team. Mr. Follier, oh my gosh, I wish I could have taken that class. I almost cut my finger off in 8th grade because I didn't really know what I was doing. But thank you so much for the gifts. Thank you so much for the kind words. We will wear these t-shirts and everything proudly. Some of the favorite things I have are the pictures that students have done, and thank you.
We do a round of applause.
Yes.
Can we give the Madrigals especially standing ovation? Yes. Hey, actually, all the students.
They all stand. They should all talk to each other. They did a great job.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Jessica.
Thank you. That was phenomenal, your performance. Thank you so very much. And Mr. Fuller and all of your students in Joaquin, it is so cool to see what you are doing. That all of you, when we came to do the tour at the high school and see everything that was happening in your class, it was phenomenal. It was amazing to hear students. There was one girl who said her boyfriend had taken it, so then she had decided to do it, and it was an outlet for creativity for her. She didn't even realize how much she would enjoy it. And as well as the students that I already talked about, you saw group collaboration and individuals working, and it was absolutely fantastic. And everything to hear that the middle school is doing and building that confidence and skills for our students, and everything with the elementaries, all that we are doing, I want you to know this, that the reason that I serve up here is because of you. We have the best staff, and I so appreciate everything you are doing for our kids in our community. And it's amazing when I applied here. Part of what my vision is for a group, for our community and our students to be able to come together and go out into the world and be great citizens, right? And have the skills, no matter whether or not they go to college or whatever it is they do, that Creek has given them the skills to be good citizens and survive in the world. And we have that, and you kids are doing great. And so thanks a lot. All of this is very much appreciated, but who you are is what's most appreciated. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, now we're going to dry some tears, and we will move on to public comment. Anyone like to address the board, please stand, state your name, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
I have a quick handout if you wouldn't mind passing.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so there's no feedback.
As everybody knows, COVID has been in the news quite a bit recently. I'm here to talk about the COVID-19 safety precautions. I'm not here to share personal experiences or opinions about masks or vaccines. I think everyone has made up their mind already. Instead, I'm here to urge the board and administration to listen to the experts on the issue of COVID-19 safety. Every member of our community deserves the ability to share their opinions, but not all opinions hold the same weight. Saying masks are tyranny, that's a political opinion, it's a fact. They don't hold the same weight as an expert providing facts that are backed up by the vast consensus of scientists. As leaders of our community, our most important resource, the education of our children and our future, you don't need to know everything. We don't expect you to. We expect you to look for experts on the subject and ask the right questions to get the facts and guidance needed to make the right decision. You're not a medical doctor, virologist, immunologist, epidemiologist, nurse practitioner, a person who has legitimate expertise in the field. Then you have to reference the opinion of the experts in the field. The GCHD has stated in a letter sent to administrators that school systems in Genesee County should have a mask mandate while our county is in substantial or high transmission, which it is. I definitely understand the difficulties when the state and county aren't willing to do mandates when they should, and leaving it up to you to make the decision. They've fallen down in their role and left it up to you to make the best decision for the safety of our students, staff, and community. It's not about making people happy or future re-election. It's about keeping people safe. It's also about keeping our students at in-person school. Grand Blanc just had to go virtual because of lack of staff. Imagine if they hadn't had a mask mandate for the last few weeks, how much worse it would have been. At this point in the pandemic, no parent wants to go back to virtual. Grand Blanc and Fenton have extended their mask mandates to mid-February following expert advice, and Flushing has as well tonight. They just started theirs back. We know that transmission through schools will reach more at-risk community members and increase the load on our hospital systems that are buckling under the pressure right now. The healthcare heroes that work tirelessly every day deserve the utmost respect and consideration. Do what is best for them, the easiest possible thing any of us can do during this very trying period. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ovsenek. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Okay. You do have informational items in your packet about some non-certified staff, and we're going to move on to board discussion items, beginning with the school board committee discussion and chairperson selection. Oh, sorry, superintendent report, which I neglected to include. Mr. Meinke, my apologies.
To be fair, this is about the board tonight, not the superintendent, so I understand. It's been just so great to come back from our holiday break refreshed and ready to go. And it's been just a joy to see our kids come back to school. And, you know, some of our staff members look a little bit more rested, which is great. But I want to talk about a number of things, so I'll try and go fairly quickly. One of the things we've been doing for a long time is focusing on our safety and security. That's been a focus for this board and for this district for a long time. We've had our administrators trained, and we've had threat assessment processes and protocols for a number of years now. We have a very strong active shooter training that all of our staff has been trained in and continues to be updated. But one of the things that we've spent some time over the past month really kind of honing in on is our risk assessment. And the risk assessment is essentially trying to have a systematic way of identifying when students may be at risk of school violence or danger. And so we've been working and developing some tools with the consultation of psychologists and other bodies. Quite frankly, I think we have probably one of the only tools that's a systematic approach to risk assessment which can leverage multiple types of supports from outside counseling and support services. And so today we wrapped up training all of our staff, or at least presenting the process for which we would go about identifying risk factors for kids who may need some additional support or may be a danger to themselves or others. And I'm very proud of the work of our teams that have been doing on that. We have a very concerted effort as it relates to risks and threats. Additionally, we had planned to have our night lock door mechanism, our door latching systems installed over the summer. And in the light of everything that had happened, we made contact with the company and were able to get them actually out earlier than that. And over the winter break, they installed the entire middle school and high school buildings with the elementary slated to go and spring break. So from a safety side, I'm very proud of the work that we've done. It's important that we all remain diligent. There is no 100% guarantee in life, but we need to do everything we can to minimize the risks to student safety. And so I'm proud of the work that we're doing in that area. I wanted to notify you, kind of a save the date, February 15th. We're going to try to pull off our first ever Swartz Creek Community Schools State of the Schools address. And at that meeting, it's going to be held at the Performing Arts Center. We hope to have students, particularly from some of our student government groups, present and do an update about their school and some of the things that are going on. We also hope to share with the community many of the projects that sometimes need some further clarification and update that, it's going to be open to the public, open to the community. It's not a board meeting, but it is certainly, you're encouraged or welcome to attend. And hopefully it'll be an interactive and informational evening. I want to also touch base. What time was that? February 15th. And that's a really good question. I should know that off the top of my head, but I don't. So let me see. It is at 7 o'clock p.m. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about, I usually, if it's not on the board agenda, I will discuss the Gaines Elementary situation. And so I want to first talk just a little bit about enrollment. We have seen a stabilizing enrollment trend throughout the first semester. The first semester is slated to end in 2 weeks, and at that point, we go back through and we look at our enrollment numbers. So I originally planned to have an enrollment projection for tonight, but I will have it at our next board meeting. As it relates to Gaines Elementary School, also, we are getting slated. We had a nice meeting out there a month or so ago, and we had some really great dialogue and ideas around how to market the building. We are going to be doing some marketing efforts over the course of the next few weeks as we are in our school of choice window for the second semester. And so we will be having some things about all of our buildings, but Gaines will be certainly included in that. So more to come, and we'll discuss more about the process for this year and the meetings as it relates to that, and you'll be able to weigh in on that. But that is just a brief update. I wanted you also to be aware that on February 25th through the 27th is the MASB Winter Institute. If you haven't yet taken any of the board certification classes, they do a lot of really good professional learning, and this summit will be virtual. And if you're interested in taking any of the CBA courses, I know several of you have done that already, please reach out to Sue and she'll make sure that she gets you enrolled and registered. I also want to discuss COVID-19. It's been discussed very, very heavily in the media. I've talked to a number of our staff members today, and we spend so much time dealing with the pandemic, and it's a necessity because obviously it's in front of us. It's what everyone in our culture is dealing with right now. But so many of our staff and our administrators they're burnt out. It's a difficult thing to be constantly dealing with, and the quarantining and everything that goes along with it. But last week, a lot of the guidance changed from the CDC, and subsequently, the guidance has shifted at the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and I want to talk a little bit about that so you can understand where we sit. I ask you to weigh in and give me your thoughts and insights on a couple things. The Genesee County Health Department is, we believe, is going to provide updated guidance at some point in the next couple days. We don't have that information definitively, but we're hoping that their guidance will be changing as well. But I'm going to talk about the Michigan guidance here in a second, as it's what we're currently using. And I would also like to just let you know and update you on the metrics. The Omicron variant of COVID-19 is exceedingly contagious. It has a contagious rate of about 140 times that of the original strain of the virus. Right now, we have a 150% increase in the number of cases in the past 14 days in Genesee County. That represents a 38% average positivity rate, and both of those two numbers are the highest as it relates to cases in the entire pandemic. So a lot of people are sick, and with the contagiousness of this variant, a lot of people will continue to get sick. And so we are seeing a large amount of spread within the county. With that being said, and I kind of alluded to this in a memo update to parents this past week, one of the positives, if there's a silver lining in all of this, the Omicron variant does seem to be, from a severity of symptoms, significantly less problematic than the original strain, and certainly less even than Delta. So that's a good thing right now. At the height in 2020, we had about half the cases that we have now, and we were seeing at about 10 deaths per day in Genesee County. Now we're at 2 or less deaths per day, with almost 2 to 3 times the number of cases, which is one indication to kind of support where they stand with that. In talking with the health department, part of the hospitalization issue is not necessarily the number of people that are there for COVID, they're, like many schools, facing staffing shortages and nurses that, are unable to go to work and work at the hospitals, which has created some stress. So as it relates to our current context, I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into our procedures. So typically, in the toolkit, and our administrators are working with people, for almost the entire pandemic, it has been a 10-day quarantine, possibly a 14-day quarantine at different times, depending on how the positivity rates were and the spread was. And so that guidance has really shifted in the past week and continues to change. So I'm going to be prepared to communicate to our community our shift in our protocols and procedures, but I want to just highlight a couple things. First of all, isolation. And so when we talk about isolating, to kind of get crystal clear here, isolating is when you are already infected with COVID-19. It means you are positive for COVID and you are isolating. That's the term that's being used by the medical community. You are quarantined when you might have been exposed to COVID-19. And so you're quarantining because you may become infected with COVID-19. So as it relates to isolation, this means that somebody has received COVID-19 before. Typically they're out through 10 days, unable to come back to school. And so students and their families, unfortunately, it's an even longer period of time, because you have the 10-day period that the student is out, and then they start a 10-day quarantine period. So you might be looking at a student that's out for 10 days. In some cases, prior to even the last few months, it was actually 24 days in some cases. So that represents a tremendous amount of school that's lost. The new guidelines from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services are significantly more friendly to kids being in school, which is something that we've been talking about for a long time. So the new guidance says that you must isolate at home for 5 days now instead of 10. This is if you have COVID. Day 0 is the day that symptoms begin, or the day the test was taken. If symptoms have improved and you have no symptoms, you can return to school while wearing a mask for days 6 through 10. Or if that's not acceptable to you, you could stay home for the 10 days if you're unable to wear the mask. But the point is, it significantly reduces the amount of time that somebody would have to isolate in the event of infection. And part of this is because of the science around the Omicron variant, which is now the most predominant variant of COVID. And so the amount of incubation time and all of those things is less, and that's why their rationale for how they're treating this. The new quarantine guidelines for schools from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is that basically if you are a close contact, you do not need to quarantine at home if you've had COVID-19 within the last 90 days, so that's number one, are up to date on all of your vaccinations. So if you're vaccinated, if you've had the vaccine, you do not need to quarantine either. So if you don't meet one of those two qualifications, you could engage in what we call the test to stay option, and this has been tremendous. It's where anyone who has been a close contact can come in and take a test for each day, and if they're testing negative, they can stay in school, provided they wear a mask, and that has been a tremendous benefit to keeping kids in school. Unfortunately, the state has run out of tests and continues to run into testing shortages, which has led to, unfortunately, for the first time in a while, we ran out of tests, I would say, midweek last week, and our students have had to quarantine following the guidance because of the fact that we haven't had access to tests. We are told that we should be receiving a shipment of tests tomorrow morning. We are, absolutely looking for those, and we're working with our parents. And our parents, noticeably and understandably are frustrated. We're at the mercy of the state providing these tests, and so as we move forward, and we'll see what the new guidance is from the Genesee County Health Department hopefully very shortly, I would say that our plans, as we continue to take their guidance, will make it significantly easier for kids to remain in school, provided that the guidance represents something similar to the Michigan guidance. Masks continue to become a question that we get asked. I will tell you, I get asked that question a whole lot less now than I did at the beginning of the school year. As you know, a lot of people have asked about, well, when does the board step in and make a decision on masks? And the answer to that is anytime. You can do that tonight if you choose to do that. But in the absence of a meeting on a regular basis, right, I have to respond to what the health professionals are saying. As you know, we've had to occasionally close down a classroom because of the number of COVID-19 cases in the classroom. We may have to close a building temporarily if there's something going on there. But typically, in almost every district, the board can step in and make a decision one way or another. Oftentimes, it's more agile for me to be able to make those calls based on the current situation. But I wanted to kind of get your insight into that. So based on the number of cases and the data that I was reading, I made the decision without you as a board having a meeting until tonight to extend our mask mandate through the first semester. It's my recommendation to do that because it also offers more opportunities for kids to stay in school, which is probably our top priority. But I just wanted to kind of get a litmus test, get your insight into, continuing to follow these things and move in this direction, or if you want me to kind of change course, it'd just be good to get some insight on that. Coming back after the first semester, the intent at this time is to allow masks to be called highly recommended at that time. And so that's where we stand currently, and obviously I'll be constantly watching in case of a safety emergency or things like that, but wanted to kind of give you a chance to weigh in on that, discuss it with me, and if you have anything that you would like to see moving forward.
When is the end of the first semester?
End of the first semester is January 21st. So that would mean that the 24th would be
And
the
after
start
that,
of the
you're
new
saying
semester.
they would be recommended?
It would be recommended at that point. And again, there's a lot that can change in the next couple weeks, right? I mean, it's the kind of thing where, obviously I'm in regular contact with you. You wouldn't be able to deliberate about it, but obviously all of you in your own ways are giving me guidance and we're checking in at different times. But, I've tried to be very sensitive to the safety of our kids and the needs of parents and staff and students. I was the first one to extend the mask mandate from the 75% of the districts in the county that were not going to be doing it. And I do that based on what we're seeing and also in conversations with you at different times and try to stay within those guidelines. But you just want to make sure you understand kind of our current protocols, what we're doing, and if you have concerns or if you have things that you would just like me to be aware of outside of what we've already talked about, feel free to make me aware of that.
So Ben, I know you know my feelings on wearing masks. I wear them everywhere. I advocate for everybody to do it. It's not about me, it's about them. And I would strongly advocate for us going into February, maybe even the 3rd or 4th week of February, only because the cases are doubling every 2 days. And we have young children who may not have the immunity, even the high school students who have not been vaccinated. I really am concerned about the youth that are being hospitalized at this point and the difference in severity that we're seeing. And we don't know if it's, which variant is causing it. So I would open up the floor for my fellow board members, but I would strongly advocate that we be prudent and push that out into February.
And I would add to that, in my inner circle, family and friends, I've seen a lot more of them having contact with the virus. And in fact, in my inner circle, I've had some deaths within the last 6 weeks. So I highly recommend I think it is getting much worse. I think it is really getting worse. And that's from my view. And I'm very limited in what I do socially right now, being retired. But I still have been seeing in my family and friends a lot more contact with the virus, and it's not looking good. So I would suggest, at minimum, at least through the semester.
I'm sorry, Ben, I don't mean to stop you there. Cases are way up. I mean, that's undeniable, and yes, the hospitals are still having problems like they have been the entire time. And yes, it is also not helpful that staff shortages at hospitals are a clear and present problem. Deaths are down, and kids especially, students especially, anybody below the age really of 65, but if we're talking about in a school setting, right, we have mostly people below the age of 18. In fact, most of our teachers, I don't believe we have many teachers above the age of 65. But if we're talking about students, I mean, there hasn't been, I believe the statistic is currently, there hasn't been more than 850 deaths when it comes to people below the age of 18. That's nationwide. If we're talking about students in the hospitals, you're currently looking at around 3,500 to 5,000, I believe is the number. That's not, when we're talking about students, it's not a problem of safety for students. All right, we haven't, thankfully, thank God, we haven't had a death of a student in Swartz Creek. Thank God most of our students are pretty healthy. If we're talking about safety of students, the Omicron variant is not affecting our students like it was with Delta. Delta was worse than Omicron, all right? If we're going to talk about safety, I think we need to talk about safety of staff and administration. That should be the real focus because students are not as affected by this as them. Students are not being hospitalized at a rate nearly like they are with adults. Students aren't dying of this thing quite like adults. If we're going to talk about safety, I think we should be talking about staff and administration, not students.
But Jack, when students are unmasked and come to school, they can share it with the staff.
Right.
So I think that's what I'm advocating for, mandate in masks until this starts to subside, which the folks that I work with every day in the medical field and who work in the hospitals and work, look at the data, are estimating that this should start to subside within the next 3 to 4 weeks, start to go down. But we're still dealing with the incidents over that period of time. So we don't know where students go. We don't know who they're exposed to at school or at home. I just think that it's being conservative. We should look at pushing the recommendation for a mandate out into February.
And I think the only masks that provide a lot of protection, and this is according to the CDC, the only masks that truly provide a lot of protection are N95s and KN95s. If we're gonna provide a mandate and we want to protect our staff, I think we should provide them, if we're going to mandate it, I think we should provide them with M95s and KN95s. And I don't think that we should be forcing our students to mask, because if we want to protect, the only masks that truly protect are the M95s and the KN95s, and that's according to the CDC. That's not an opinion. I think if we're going to mandate it, it should be a staff thing and not a student thing.
Any other comments from board members? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple questions, Karen. And one is everybody's giving their personal opinion, but I'm more of an optional mask person. I think I've made that clear to the board. There's 4 things that I'm thinking of right off head. One is we got to keep our staff working. I know they're stressed out. We're all stressed out. Parents are stressed out even more, because when a school closes, then it puts a lot of stress in our community. And I can't believe anybody here, I know some schools are closing, but the teachers are their own worst enemy. They did such a great job today with all the students that I don't want to see one school closed in this district, right? We just all said that, right? We all almost came to tears on what just occurred. So we're not going to close these schools unless we absolutely have to. But if it was between a mask and closing the school, I would keep the mask. Does that make sense so far? 2 and these are some questions that for us to make an educated decision, how much of our staff are vaccinated? Mr. Ben?
I would say that number hovers around 65%.
Okay. All right, so that's one question. So obviously our staff, 65% are more concerned than others, right? But that's not the entirety of the staff. If we were to question our staff, do they want to keep the masks on? Can you give me a percentage on that?
I can't give you a percentage, but I would tell you that the majority of our staff would say that they would be in support of keeping masks.
Okay, that's a good answer, so I can make an educated decision, and the board can. I know you probably don't have this number. How many of our students have been vaccinated?
That is a number I don't have.
Okay.
And it would be hard for me to speculate, but I can tell you through anecdotal evidence,
Yes.
there's a number of them that are, from the standpoint of, prior to some of this new guidance, when our principals would have to quarantine, talk about that with students. If they were vaccinated, they wouldn't have to participate. And there's a number of our students who have taken part. We've put out, where the vaccination sites are and things like that. And so parents.
And some of that data we're not privy to, I understand, but that's why I'm asking you. And to kind of come to a compromise is what I'm suggesting, is that I don't want to close the schools ever again. So we would be better off extending the masks for just a short time, have the board maybe meet a week or 2 off weeks or something, even if it's for a short meeting, just to decide that. Because, and I've told you this before in person, I don't think you should call the shots on just closing the school unless there's some mass chaos going on. Because we're responsible to the public here, and we have 4,000 sets of parents that we're responding to. And I'll be honest, most of my response is they don't want the school closed at all costs. A lot of them don't want the masks, but I think if they were given a choice, me as a parent, still, if my boys were still in school, I'd be like, well, okay, we're wearing the mask until that, not to knock from you, Jack, is what I'm saying. So, I guess to the board, it'd be better maybe for us to keep it for a short while, let the parents know that, let them know that the board's actively gonna research it as much as we can and maybe meet more often than we do our once-a-month meetings, and then try to figure that out and see what the local health department's gonna come up with, because I know they change their opinion, me coming from the county weekly, so that might affect some of our decisions instead of us making a decision, living with it, and then waiting till next month. except for the masks. So that's just some of the questions I had. And how many kids no one's died in Swartz Creek that I know of, or really any school in this area, correct? Student-wise, right?
No,
Okay,
Certainly not in Swartz Creek.
right.
not in the county to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think there was one child that died early on in Grand Blanc, if I'm not mistaken. He had a lot of underlying medical issues. So I guess my opinion is that I'm against the masks, but only as an option. But in fear of closing a school, I would rather keep the masks on, which is against my, my normal wave on it.
I understand, yeah.
Ben, can I ask, I don't know if you have these numbers, but do you know how many of our staff members have natural immunity to this? How many of our staff have gotten it and are now immunized that way?
Again, I don't have a specific number, but it's a lot.
Okay.
So if you're asking the question, how many of our staff have antibodies, I would be surprised if that number isn't over 90%.
And same with students, would you guess?
I would guess that number is probably less than that, but it's a pretty high number.
Okay.
So you're saying combined antibodies with, okay, let's ask, how many of our teachers have been sick roughly? We've got
That's
that.
part of what I'm saying, the natural,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that have had the virus who, have natural antibodies up to 90 days, and that's even, recommended in this guidance here. There's a lot of, staff members who have had it in the last several months.
I look at the COVID plaque card that we have online and it says, year to date and current and,
Yep.
and how many teachers do we currently have off with COVID? Roughly 6 or 7, I think it said yesterday.
Yeah, that number is increasing, but we do have, the middle school got hit pretty hard a week ago, and several of our buildings have had some issues, but yeah, that number is probably going to be in the double digits here pretty soon. Again, the new guidance and what we're going to be following as it relates to quarantining and that makes it a little bit more manageable with our staff too, because they're not out for 10 days. Right. And the other advantage, and I'm not advocating, again, my job is to be neutral on this and let you guys, give me guidance. So I'm not advocating pro-mask, anti-mask. That's not what I'm saying, but I am going to say that in relation to the guidance that's provided, if you are in masks, it does make it easier to stay in school. And so that's part of what I hear from some of our students, even at the high school when I, visit, and they would say, I might not love the mask, but if I can be here with my friends, that's important. One of the, and don't get me wrong, there are very strong opinions on both ends of the spectrum that I hear from on a fairly regular basis, but one thing I might recommend based on what I'm hearing is that on February 16th, depending on how your discussion on the calendar goes, you have a board meeting scheduled. One thing that could happen is we could say, hey, let's extend beyond the first semester into, you could say the 17th of February or something like that. And then you would have a meeting if you wanted to take a chance to weigh in on it at that time. You'd also have a board meeting coming up on the 26th, so a couple weeks from now, where we're going to know more. And what we're hearing is that the Omicron peak is going to hit at the beginning of February, is what they're telling us. So as a result of that, you could say, hey, I'd prefer to compromise in that way. And then come February 16th, before we would make a final decision, you guys could have another discussion about it.
Okay, is that okay, Carrie? Can you live with that, Brian? Oh, yeah. What about you, Jack? Can we give a little bend on it? Listen, I'm on with you on the mask, but I'm just trying to do a little bend. I'd rather I don't want to have somebody say, well, you didn't make them wear masks, so we close the whole facility.
Well, I don't want to close the school. I mean, our job is to educate the students. I want the best possible education for our students, and
okay.
I am willing to compromise for the sake of keeping our schools open. I don't want our schools to shut down. I don't want our students to be out of school. Right. I'm willing to compromise, but we do need to, I think, in the future, I think it needs to be recommended past a point, because we can't keep forcing the kids to wear the masks.
Why don't we go 2 weeks and talk about it and kind of stay status quo, if that's okay with the rest? I mean, Carrie, you do what you want. Jessica, I'm sorry I took your time. Go.
We meet on the 26th. Carrie, may I comment?
Yeah.
We meet on the 26th.
Then again on February
And then you meet on, that you put
Semester ends on.
the 21st.
21st.
So you'd have a little gap there. So what I'm saying is, we can extend it, and again, your discussion is enough for me. If you want to vote on it, that's fine too. That way it's you guys are officially taking action, but whichever direction that functionally happens, if you extend it to the 17th of February, then on the 16th, you guys can have a deliberation. I'll have updated statistics and numbers at that time.
Can you get us numbers from our staff too? Like, I mean, do an informal poll.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd just like to know what the teachers and, you know, I want to keep everybody happy. It's impossible to do, but
Sure.
just to see where they're at and what their feeling is. They have more of a pulse of what's going on, and you can just say, hey, what are you guys seeing? And the quarantine is a lot less now, which is good. But I see everybody else's point, but why don't we do that if Carrie, you want to do that, Carrie?
Yeah,
Is that good, you think?
That's fine. I think we should plan to push it out into February. That way we're past the semester break.
Right.
And because right now the lineup of the semester break and our next meeting doesn't match. So going out into February, everybody can say some prayers that we are going to see a reduction in cases by then. And Jessica, you had some comments. I wanted to get yours in as well.
But this is my only one last concern. When you shoot the person, they usually want to fight back. And I feel like you put the masks on, then you close down the school if it doesn't get better. It's a double whammy, you know, so that's the only thing I don't want to see, you know what I mean? That, you know, we're putting people through all these mandates and then we still close the school. That's my big concern, you know.
Yeah, I hear that, and I appreciate that perspective. And I think for all of us, we want our kids in school, and we want to be here too. So, you know, in the absence of some sort of great, you know, overwhelming, and I even put that in my memo. You know, the plan at this point is most likely the school is going to be open unless there's some overwhelming reason that we couldn't. But you know, that happens on a day where it's icy roads in the morning, you know, so it's just, you never know what could happen. But I understand and hear loud and clear what you're saying, which is if we're going to do masking, we need to be in school, kind of a thing.
Right. I don't want to make all these mandates and you still close the school. It's like the, you know, we're going to give you your last meal, but we're not going to give it to you. And we're still going to, you know, yeah, so that's it. Okay, thank you.
So Jessica, I know you have some comments. Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Carrie.
But the February 16th date, that meeting would then be after the state of the school meeting. So we'd have families coming to that, I'm assuming. We would have an expectation that folks would wear the mask there as well.
Yep.
And then we could then address it at our board meeting the next day.
You could, and then, you know, we would have guidance for, you know, starting on the 17th forward, you know.
We're going to have more information for our January meeting anyways at the end of the month. Let's just play by ear and, okay.
And Jessica, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, number one, that's fine. I think the most important thing, and maybe, I won't put you fully on the spot, but maybe if you can nod, if you think, I think it's crucial that we are supportive to our staff. And if the majority of our staff would prefer to our students and that they stay masked, I think that that's the supportive thing for us to do. It is, we've done it this long and we are accustomed from the ECOL that we had done for so long to do a month-by-month assessment of what we were going to do. It makes sense to me that we reassess this on the 16th with the hope that then we can go to highly recommended. But given that they say, again, and all of this has been already said, but I'm going to say why I'm in support of it is because we're not even at a peak yet in this area. And whether or not it's even in the hospitals, for our staff, our students, and their families to not be masked and potentially get sick, and that their healthcare providers, maybe not even at the hospital, are overwhelmed. Like the most, if we can help reduce the risk and the level of transmission, and then in turn, hopefully, reduce the stress and improve the health of our families, or at least maintain that, I think it's the responsible thing to do for this next month. Because quite honestly, we just don't know. We don't know what our numbers are gonna be. We don't know how sick our kids are gonna be. And even with the natural immunity, we have a close family friend who's been sick now, once in October and once right now. So like, we just, because we don't know, I think the responsible thing for us to do for the care and concern of our staff and our students is to wait until the 16th and then reassess.
Like, one more
Thanks.
question.
Go ahead.
The health department lifted it to where it's optional. Why, if it's so prevalent and that everybody's getting it, why did they put us in that position? I'm not worried about being put in position. That's why we're here to make decisions, but they mandated it several months ago, and now they're like, just do what you want. But everybody at the government level hiring us is saying, oh, it's so contagious. That's an oxymoron. I mean, I don't get it.
Sure. Yeah, it's a frustrating situation.
So they're putting superintendents and school boards.
They are. I mean, we've made the comment. It's widely known that, you know, if there's a mandate, of course, we followed it as we have the whole year. That's why you have the legal authority to do those things. Certainly, school boards have the authority to do that as a matter of policy, and school district superintendents. But you know, we're kind of looking to them for that guidance, and so it has been a very deeply felt frustration across the county. I can say that, but at the same time, I do recognize and understand they're in a difficult spot. This is highly politicized on both ends of the spectrum, but you know, I think at this point we're trying to look at what is the best case scenario for keeping our kids in school, and that's kind of our primary focus. But you know, I think it's a point well taken.
Carrie, do you want a motion on it, or are we okay as a?
Unless anybody disagrees, I think we're good.
Okay. No, I'm good.
I think I didn't
know
hear
if you want a motion or not. I'm good with it.
disagree.
Okay.
But we can talk about it again in a couple weeks.
Okay.
But we'll plan on it for the meantime.
Yeah, so just so that I make sure I'm clear, I'm going to be communicating to the families with some new guidance, because these quarantine dates and isolation dates are going to change. So it's been confusing as all get out. So I want to make sure we give crystal clear communication. I am going to say the board discussed this, and you know, we have made the decision based on a lot of these metrics that we are going to temporarily expand the mask requirement through February 17th. And at that time, the board will make a decision on the data on what the next steps are going to be starting on February 16th. So we'll know, you know, if we're going to, you know, as Jack had advocated, move beyond and make it highly recommended, or, you know, what the decision would be at that time. So I just want to make sure you're clear what I'm going to be communicating on your behalf as well.
Thank you, and I'm going to thank the administrators who are here.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I actually would like to motion that. I would like to motion that we extend through to February 17th, at which point it then becomes highly recommended the day after, unless at the February 16th meeting we change it, but you would have to motion at that point. So I would like to motion that we mask, and we have a mandate until the 17th, but after that, we highly recommend it. Compromise with me here. I'd like to motion that.
Unless the CDC or health department, or there's some better thing going on.
Unless they change that.
Yeah, it's
On the 16th, we vote again.
I'm okay with that too. That's why I want to know if we should have a motion on it to be a little bit more official, but it's, you know, you want me to second it? I'll
Yes.
second it. I support Jack's motion.
Okay. So Sue, I don't know if you got
That's
that.
a fair compromise for everyone.
If you could maybe repeat it.
I believe
Thank
so.
you.
You want to mandate the mask wearing until the 17th. And at that time, it will go to
Highly recommended.
highly recommended. Okay.
And we will vote on that though, Sue, or, you know, make a decision whether to flip it or not. But if we don't, then it's going to go to highly recommended. I'm good with that.
Voted on in the February.
Yep.
That's a good compromise.
And unless we receive guidance otherwise.
Well, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
One more question, Carrie. Oh, no, we'll go on with the motion. I'll ask the question later.
So any comments or questions?
No, we've had enough. Vote it.
All right,
Sure, you had another question.
Sue, could you?
Well,
do
it's going to be,
roll-
it's going to be tough.
Could you do roll call, please?
Sure can. Brian?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Okay, my question was, how many children are in the hospital right now? Do we know that?
Nationwide?
No, I don't care about, I care about Genesee County.
I don't know that number specifically.
Is that available at the health department?
Yes.
The county health department, so we can see what we're dealing with unless we're, shooting a squirrel with a.
Yeah, and at the 16th, I'll actually prepare, when we come to the 16th, I'll prepare an up-to-date data profile of where we're at.
I would like to add those numbers, so we're not dealing with hypotheticals and kids are dying and this is happening and grandma died and the dog's dead and
Sure.
everybody's,
I can get you that on the 16th.
Okay.
Ben, can the health department provide by age group the percent of students or people that are vaccinated within the Swartz Creek surrounding area, zip codes?
I don't know if they can or not. They can provide positivity rates, and they've started to break that out into the groups of students and children below the age of 18, so they can provide some of that data. Vaccinations, I can check. I don't know how readily available that is.
They should know by the MICR database, the zip codes in an area. So if you have the ability to ask that,
I can do that.
that would be helpful, I think, to this
Yeah, that's great.
conversation.
I'd like to know that, Carrie. That's good.
And not just Swartz Creek, but the greater Swartz Creek area where we would draw students from and staff, I guess. So I started to say thank you to the staff. I know this is a huge issue for all of you, and we appreciate your support and know that we are trying to support you as well. The average age of a person in the hospital right now with COVID is 39 years old. So keep that in mind as we're looking at keeping all of you safe as well. Anything else on that, Ben?
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good discussion. All right, moving on. I think we are going to Miss Elena Cook for our Student Board Representative Report. And before you start, ma'am, great performance by you and the Madrigals. Thank you so much. You warmed our hearts tonight. Go ahead.
Thank you. We always love singing together, so thank you for the opportunity. So our monthly meetings that took place in Mr. Bierman's room, those have been suspended for now due to low participation and scheduling conflicts. Not exactly sure the next step, but I'm working on it. Our AP government class has started their Project Citizen projects, which has started critical thinking and change within the high school. These students have identified a problem and are coming up with ways to fix it. They've been working closely with administration, and so far I've heard nothing but praise for these students and their professionalism, and we are so excited to see how this all plays out. The middle school POMS team got first place in their competition last weekend, and the varsity competitive cheer actually has a meet going on right now, so good luck to them. Our varsity bowling team got first place in their competition a few weeks ago, and our varsity wrestling won the Gladwin Super Duels a couple days ago. We have started a debate club, which runs every Monday after school at the high school. That's completely student-run, and it has, from what I've heard, has had great participation.
Is that open to everybody, Elena?
It's just open to high schoolers right now.
Oh, we can't come and watch?
Well, if they ever have a meet or anything, I'm sure it'll be available to you.
I'd like to come watch it.
Our high school band concert will be on February 15th at 7, which is the same time as the meeting, so I'm going to need to double check that date. Very sorry about that. The middle school choir concert is next Thursday, so January 20th at 7. Our high school coming home game is February 4th, and then the coming home dance is February 5th, with more information to come on that. Our high school drama department for our winter show is doing a senior showcase, which will take place on February 26th at 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. at the PAC. This is a completely student-run project which allows students to step out of their comfort zones and explore different aspects of the theater world. Along with group numbers and scenes that students will be doing, they are having alumni come back, as well as teachers, staff, and administrators who have all had an impact on one of their lives, and they will be singing the closing number with us. Aladdin Jr., which is the middle school production, has started rehearsals, and those show dates will be on February 18th, 19th, and 20th, but I don't know the times off the top of my head. The middle school quiz bowl has a meet at Grand Blanc West on February 1st at 3, and the middle school archery has started meeting every Monday and Thursday in the middle school cafeteria. Our class of 2023 is hosting a trivia night on January 28th at St. Mary's. The doors open at 6 and trivia starts at 7, and it is $20 a person with groups of 4. Everyone is welcome to attend that. High school exams are next week, so January 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. They had to add an extra day due to our 7-hour period days. And those will have half days on the 19th through the 21st, which is always welcome. Our 8th grade and freshman DC trip will be on the February 17th through the 20th, and they have high participation in that, so lots of excitement. Our student spotlight for this month, actually it was in December, but is Jason Hernandez. He was a Madrigal who came tonight, but he attended this year's Thespian Festival along with several other high school students where he auditioned for some theater scholarships and ended up obtaining almost $200,000 in scholarships, including a full ride scholarship. We are hoping to have another student roundtable. We are hoping to have that done by the end of January, but that was just we were not able to do that. So right now, the tentative date is February 18th. So if you guys could let me know whether that works for you or does not work for you, that'd be great, and I can get the ball moving on that. Any questions?
Seems like we have no time for COVID with all these. Could somebody please tell them to take a break because our students have way too much going on. Thank you.
For sure.
Elena, you said February 18th? And did you say a time? I'm sorry.
I do not have a time yet. I was going to see
Okay.
what time worked best for
Okay.
everyone. Perfect.
I mean, if Sue wants to look it up for us, can you do it, Brian or Carrie, or are we all good? It was a fun time.
I can do it as well if it's in the morning or I think we did it lunchtime. Yeah, I could do that as well, until 1 o'clock. Yep.
All right.
So I don't know how you organized it last time. You did a great job. But I think most of us enjoyed it. And if you didn't get a chance to go, it was very insightful.
Thank you.
I would just like to say, I have a great excuse to not be there because I work third shift. So it's very hard for me to do anything between the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Just so everyone knows, it's not that I'm not trying to participate. It's just hard for me because that's when I sleep.
That's okay, Jack.
Maybe you'd like to do one in the middle of the night when you have an off day? Okay.
Any questions for Elena? Thank you again. Thank you. All right, moving on. Board discussion items, beginning with the board committee discussion and our chairpersons for those committees.
Yeah, so I wanted to share with you a concept. And so I'll start by sharing with you our committee structure as we currently stand. This is what we know. It's the current structure where we basically run our committee meetings as committees of the whole, and we run those committees of the whole at times when, typically it's during board meeting week, right? So Rod and I talk about, okay, it's board meeting week, and there's 5 or 6 board meetings that week, but we get a lot done in that week. That's the current structure that's there. I'm not saying that this structure is a bad structure, but I wanted to propose to you another idea. A lot of districts are doing this. It's a slightly different variation of our current committee structure, and so I'll pass this out. This is an example. This is actually a AM's. It's called the study session model, and this is a PM example. And so essentially what the study session model would be is that we would find a time that's agreeable, and we would hold a little bit of an extended meeting that would occur the week before a board meeting. So if you had a board meeting on, as we've said, February 16th, then you would have a board study session on February 8th. And the purpose of a study session is that it allows for an agenda to be built the week prior, and that could be somewhat malleable and flexible. So for example, let's say we're getting ready to talk about Mary Crapo. There's a lot to talk about with that. The Building and Site Committee would say, we need a good, couple hour chunk of time to talk about this and deliberate it. But the policy meeting or the policy committee doesn't have a whole lot to share. They're able to, talk about policy for 5 minutes, even though we need to spend more time talking about building and site. An advantage to this type of a study session model is that it allows for everybody to be present, hearing all of the different things that are going on. It also allows for a little bit more time before board meetings to be able to kind of process what's going on. You would still have chairpersons for each committee because those committees may still need to meet outside of a study session. So you might say, well, we have a study session and we're going to talk about strategic planning, but we're getting ready for a handbook review. And so we get the policy and the academic achievement committee chairperson to set a meeting, and we would do that at a mutually agreeable time. The benefit of doing this would be it's a little bit more efficient. It includes more people in the discussion. Again, in study sessions, there's no action item. There's never action that's taken. It's for informational and deliberation purposes only. And so that is kind of the core of the question is, the first question is, do you want to stick with what we have, or do you like the idea, and is there enough advantage to try to do a study session model? That's the first question. The second question is, and I put this on both of the calendars, one of the things that we haven't done as a board consistently is establish time for board workshops. This would be when we do strategic planning. This would be when we have professional development for the board, where you might hear from an attorney, or you might get an update from a legislative liaison, or you might get somebody from MASB to come out and talk about board governance. But building in a few of those meetings, I have 4 slated there for the year, can be very beneficial to make sure that you as a board still have time to do your own professional updates and learning outside of just what we do at board meetings. So these are concepts. And so the first question, as I said, do you like the idea and the possibility of moving to more of a study session model? Do you, or not, or do you like to keep what we have? Do you like the idea of moving to board workshops or not? And then the last decision that's made, regardless of which model you choose to go with as you deliberate, we will need to select who wants to be a part of each committee and who would like to be the chairperson for each committee. And then one last thing, and then I'll just be quiet and you can talk, is the Building and Site Committee is probably more aptly named the Operations Committee, because we talk about a lot of things that relate to the operations of the district. Building and Site was originally termed that way because of the sinking fund and how we would allocate sinking fund dollars, which is certainly a part of that operations team. But I think you may want to consider renaming that committee the Operations Committee, as it, I think, more broadly represents what that committee does and discusses. So those are my points, and then I'll let you discuss and deliberate.
So I guess I'll start with comments from folks, and then I have a couple questions for Ben. Or maybe I should ask the questions first.
It's up to you.
So with a board study session, which I'm not familiar with how that is run, who would be leading it? Would that be something you would take responsibility for? Because it doesn't really require a leader from the board, as I understand it. And then does it also require any kind of report out at a next board meeting?
Yes. So what you would do to take you through a practical representation of what a study session would look like. So the week before the study session, we would send the agenda out just like we do for a board meeting you have it the week before. The agenda would encompass most likely all 4 of our committees, but they may be in varying degrees, right? So we might be very heavy on policy, for example, because there's some updates that have come from Troon. But our financial update is fairly straightforward, and so we don't spend a lot of time on finance. And Building and Site is pretty straightforward, so we only have a few updates there. And so you're spending the majority of your time on policy in a particular meeting. And so what the study session allows for is flexibility versus we have meetings scheduled sometimes, not often, but sometimes where there isn't as much to discuss in one meeting, but you know, that particular meeting still is on the books for a full hour, and then you got to wait till the next hour. And so it makes for a little bit more of an efficient schedule. So you would still have a committee chair, because there may be a situation, as I described, you know, Mary Crapo, and the operations committee would say, I want to spend more time talking about that. So we schedule a separate operations committee as almost a subcommittee to meet to talk specifically about that. And it doesn't mean that everybody on the board has to come, but it might be the subcommittee that goes. So that's the kind of the way that would work. The additional thing about study sessions is it allows for people in the district who are employees to come and attend those, right? So if we're doing an academic achievement heavy study session, we might be hearing about a new literacy curriculum, and so we're going to bring in some of our expert, you know, literacy coaches and things like that to talk to the board members about that, which is kind of a nice option as well. So, you know, it's just an idea, and you know, I'm not tied one way or another to any particular model, but that's how it would work from a study session perspective.
Thank you. And Jack, you had a question? Okay. All right. Anyone else? Any
I like
questions?
the idea of study sessions. I think, you know, having all of them together at one time with as many board members as we can get, I think that would be a lot more, like you said, efficient. So, yes, I would go with this, the board study sessions.
I would only ask that we do it earlier in the day rather than later in the day. I don't know how that works for other folks. I'm thinking of some of the other board members that aren't here and how that might work for them. And I know you wanted to make a decision tonight, but we had talked about the potential of maybe discussing it tonight and maybe making a decision at the 26th board meeting, just following the pattern that we have been. I don't know if that's something people are interested in. Doing our regular committees this month and then deciding on the 26th, but I'll open it up for conversation.
Okay. I haven't thought about it yet. I wrote some notes down, but I would like to keep it. Sorry. I'm not against the study sessions, but I like the formalities of our committees. And I think that the public can come to the committees and make weigh-ins. And in building site operations / committee, I've always asked to invite people that are experts in it when I have a question so I can make an educated decision to the board. And I just think it flows much smoother. I think if we get all our board members into study sessions, it might get, yeah, that's all I'm saying, Brian, is that, and I'm not against it. Maybe we could have study sessions like every quarter or something where all of us get together on it, kind of like a board workshop, but kind of blend them together. And the subcommittees, I think, are doing a great job because we kind of get in there, we tackle the 4 or 5 objects, usually like for building and site and operations. There's always me, you, and Jessica, and we're there for finance too because we back them up to each other. And I think we get a lot accomplished, and then we can relay the information pretty short and sweet to the rest of the board members to keep them informed. If there's something that's important to them on that particular issue, they can always come to that committee meeting. And some of us can't show up in the mornings, and some of us can't show up in the afternoons. And right now, we've got them all split up to kind of work for our individual schedules. That's my concern with it.
May I comment? I'm not certain how I feel about the board study sessions. I actually like the idea of maybe doing those quarterly. As you said, because it's a good idea. I'm thinking about the compromise. Number one, I do like the idea of doing the board workshops. I'll tell you that right now. Yes. So if we can keep that, great. I think maybe a compromise to get from where we have been to maybe at some point, or getting to the board study sessions, unless we do decide to do that, is to combine, and I know that we've talked about this, to actually make policy and academic achievement and or to rename those one meeting, because sometimes I think we wait because the time that is posted is an hour later from one to the other. Sometimes there's they run over, but sometimes that first meeting could end. I think sometimes finance could end earlier and we could get on to building and site. And so it does not take quite as long. So maybe that a good compromise may not be, because my other concern, so to keep policy and academic achievement together, and if we need to rename those, and then put operations and finance together, and then start at one time and try to maybe keep it to an hour and a half. I'm not certain, but the other part to that is my concern with the board study sessions is that if we're covering so many different topics, in a way, at some point, we're rushing to get out of there for something else. And there is something that may fall through the cracks or not get the time that it truly deserves. It may be well-intentioned, but at least now that we know the people who are on these committees have a focus and a desire to be on those committees, and it's something that they really pay attention to. And I don't want that attention to, I guess, diminish.
That's great. Let's add one more thing to it. How about we do the committees a week ahead of time?
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing.
That's what I think we should do, because in that way, so that being said, we can, when you know how we type our notes, and we're always kind of in a rush because Monday is finance and building, which me and Jessica are on, and Brian, and then I'm rushing to get my notes out for the Wednesday meeting, right, Sue? Can you affirm that? I get them to her at 2 o'clock on Wednesday. And if we do them the week ahead of time, I could still get them out by Wednesday, but now we're 7 days ahead of schedule, and Sue can distribute our subcommittee reports to the rest of the board members. So if Carrie says, hey, Chuck, what's going on building committee on this one, or I got a question to carry on academics or policy and procedures to Brian, I think that might be a little bit better of an idea. That way we have time to digest it instead of getting it on Wednesday and trying to read everything. That's it. With that, I mean, if I think that's a good, that would help me. And I think that way I could read everybody's notes and they could read our notes and mine.
So what I'm hearing everybody, and I don't know, Jack, if you have anything. One of the things that I'm hearing is that maybe we keep our current structure. We back the dates up to the week prior.
Yes.
We like this idea of board workshops, so we could keep those, and those are 4 times a year.
Yes.
And we keep the committee structure, so there's still a committee chair and a committee established for each 4, but what we would do is say, we're going to hold the academic achievement and policy meetings at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, right? And then there will be an adjournment and a formalized start and end to the meeting, but it would be flexible within that 2-hour period. And you could do the same thing starting building insight and finance at 2 o'clock and have flexibility to, end a meeting early or whatever, but there would still be separate 4 committees. Does that make sense? Does that represent what you're asking for?
Yeah, I think or it technically can be 2 committees, depending on how we rename them. Finance and operations can be 1 committee, right?
It could, although
It's
there may
okay
be
that it's not. I
times
guess
that
that
we
was
want to
something like-
schedule a
Sure.
separate meeting if
That's
we have a
fine.
further
That's
thing
fine.
to discuss.
And we have to fulfill it so we can
Yeah.
meet the requirements of the law so the public can show up.
Right.
So I think that would be
That's
okay if you subcategorize them, the 2 meetings. This is the start time. If the public wants to come, they can't, we didn't allow
Right.
proper participation from the.
But I want to make sure we all understand this. So if we have a light policy agenda and it's 30 minutes, so that gives us the remainder of the time to adjust academic achievement topics, which may or may not go to the end. But if we post it, it would be posted as the dual meeting between a period of time. And then whenever the first ends, the second can begin. The same with finance and operations.
Yes.
Correct?
And that fulfills.
From
So
the public.
I'm hearing that you might have some hesitance there.
Well, I think from the public's perspective, what they're really going to need to know is that those meetings will start at 7 or 2, and then the second committee could start at 7:10, or it could be not till, 8:30. So it really just kind of depends. So they know that if they want to participate, they get there at the beginning.
Right, and Carrie's right, because one may only go 10 minutes, and it just says immediately preceding is the next committee meeting, and that fulfills the laws with the Open Meetings Act, that it's all,
Yep.
here it is, be here at 7 or 2.
That doesn't preclude someone from coming to the meeting and asking questions, and we
No,
can answer
right,
those
yep,
questions.
absolutely, that's why we're
Okay.
covered then, yeah.
All right, so in this group, I'm hearing that we would be okay with the same structure we have, but with the modifications we just talked about, maybe establishing some board workshops, which, great suggestion, Ben. And then I think backing it up a week was pretty popular. Poor Sue won't have to be looking for our notes in the afternoon of the board meeting.
She gets mine at 2:30 on Wednesday.
I bet I've beat you, Chuck. I
Oh,
bet
do
it's
you?
at 3 or 4.
Oh, my gosh, yeah, all
Just
right.
depending on my day.
Yeah, my day's the same way.
And she's always so gracious. And then, what was the other thing we talked about?
Just a simple semantics change if you're okay with the operations committee versus building and site. And again, it's not the end of the world, but
Could we also, because of my work schedule, could we push policy and academic achievement? Could we push that back 30 minutes to 7:30 instead of just 7? Because I get out now at 7.
yeah, I mean, you didn't get paid by Rod to say that, did you?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. But would that be a possible thing for everyone? Would that be? Yeah, he's right. Can we push it back? Would that be all right with everyone? 30 minutes?
Does that give Carrie enough time to get back to work at
Oh,
the office?
absolutely. As long as
At your
I
home
know.
office. Yeah,
Well,
home
as long as I know, I can put it on my calendar and
Okay.
it's pretty safe. Pretty safe.
I think
Thank you.
we're all good.
So then the other thing that, and I don't know if we will have to vote on this. We can either vote tonight or we can include Alyssa and Alicia at our next meeting and just follow the same pattern on the 25th, correct? Or the week before.
So I guess my recommendation would be, well, I mean, if you wanted to wait until the other two of your colleagues could be present, we would need to at least know when the next committee meetings are going to be. If there's enough comfort between the 5 of you, I believe that, I don't want to speak for the other two, but if there's enough comfort between the 5 of you, then we would just simply need in the motion to be able to know to be able to know the time, right, that you want to start, which you've kind of established that already. And I think Sue can build this calendar out and just put the dates prior. So you're going to basically in your motion say the committee meetings will be held on Tuesday mornings from starting at 7:30 for policy and academic achievement. And the meetings for finance and building and site will start at 2:00 on Mondays. And all committee meetings will take place the week prior to the board meetings. And then those board workshop dates should be good.
The first board meeting of the month. Some months we have
Typically,
two.
yes, typically the first.
First board meeting of the month,
Yep.
okay. All right. Is that good? The other thing that
Yeah,
we
I like
need.
it. That's good.
The other thing that we need to address is who is going to chair the individual meetings, and are there any changes that we need to make to that?
I would like to see a change in policy.
Who's your choice?
Nominate Jack. Unless you want to hold off this decision process here until the other two.
I was going to say keep it status quo, and if you want to change Jack. We can vote on it.
Okay, so we do have, excuse me, on our agenda, no, I guess we
I'll
don't.
second it. You, Jack.
So this is just the discussion. So that doesn't really require a motion, but if you wanted the position, Jack?
I
Okay.
second it if it's needed a motion.
Okay, and then for building and site / now possibly operations, great name.
Chuck?
Yes, I accept.
Finance,
Jessica?
I accept.
and then I would like to stay as academic achievement unless someone else.
Support. I
has a
support
burning
you.
desire.
I nominate Carrie.
Okay.
Let's move on. Everything's good.
All right, that sounds like we'll just kind of
It's a plan.
fill in the
Yeah.
folks that are interested in those, because in fact, it is a Committee of the
The
Whole.
only person we're screwing up is Sue, because now she's gonna have to change all the days.
Sorry, Sue.
And then go ahead.
Go ahead.
In the event that Alyssa and Alicia would like to participate in different committees or different, they could make that known at the next meeting, and that
Yes.
can be a change that's made pretty simply.
Yes, so we will proceed this evening and vote as we have discussed. And we should be good. Thank you. Thanks, Ben, for bringing forward the options. And then these board workshops, are we to assume that these are going to be scheduled?
They will, so the board workshops will be scheduled from typically at 8 a.m. on a Wednesday.
Okay.
And what we would do is we would, we'll obviously have plenty of time to get you the agendas for those. We have strategic planning that's underway, so that's going to be something that we'll probably be talking about in February. There are additional things in terms of legislative updates and MASB. Oftentimes Brad Banasic's willing to come out and, so we can talk about what you as a board would like to have for your upcoming workshops, and I can make some recommendations, but you certainly will be the ones weighing in on that.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Before we move on, and we do have a board meeting calendar discussion, I would like to offer our administrators an opportunity to leave if they would like. It's okay. I'm not looking at Ben as I say that, but it's quite okay if you would like to depart. And we appreciate all that you do. We appreciate you being here tonight. We appreciate you bringing forth all of the kind words and the gifts and just everything. And we just can't thank you enough. So thank you. Okay, all right. We won't watch as you walk out. All right, so moving on to the board meeting calendar discussion, Ben, I think this should be
Just
secret.
basically, real quickly, you have that in front of you for your consideration. If there are any dates that need to change, we would just need to know that, because during your approval of the 22 board meeting calendar in action items, you're essentially going to be recommending the committee structure as discussed, okay, as presented, and then this calendar as presented, unless you want to change some of the dates around. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I passed it out already. I apologize.
I can tell you that committee dates will need to change a couple.
Yes.
Probably the day after, the day before.
Yeah. We'll change it.
Yep. I just didn't know.
The big thing is it's
do
a
we
week
have
ahead
a,
now.
do we have a
So
change?
we have time to type our stuff.
Did you say we have a change?
No, just when we do the committees, there may be a couple days if they fall on a holiday or something like that, that we would
Okay.
need to move it to the day prior or after.
All right.
Okay.
Any questions for Ben on this?
I have some.
And the special gains elementary discussion meeting on March 9th?
Yeah, that's a good topic. So essentially, the question had come up, and so this is my recommendation to you, is that you have a special board meeting on March 9th. We discussed this previously, so that you as a board have a time to basically just deliberate on the Gaines Elementary situation. My recommendation to you would be that then the March 23rd, which would be a regular meeting, the Gaines Elementary School would be on the agenda for action. And again, it may or may not be on the agenda for action, but it would be giving you as a board time to look at the available data, look at all of the updates. People could come from the Gaines community if they so chose to do so and weigh in on the situation. It would be a meeting devoted to discussing that solely. So that's my recommendation for a special meeting in March, and then that gives you a couple of weeks to think about what you heard and the public communicated, and then you can make a decision on the 23rd. So that's why I put it in as a recommendation there. So if you're comfortable with that, that could be continued.
Any questions for Ben on that? Okay. That was easy. All right, Mary Crapo, we have been discussing this topic for the last couple months. We
Yep.
need to talk about next steps.
So there doesn't need to be a long, I mean, unless you want to have a longer discussion about it. My reason for bringing it up was just, we're in the process of, we have to get, as of our last conversation, we're getting RFPs, which are more lengthy and difficult to do around the holiday season. So we still have to get official numbers. I can tell you we have informal numbers on, the demolition, but we're going to get those formalized. So basically, I just wanted you to be updated about that and then know if you want to do, maybe establish with the operations committee a meeting specifically denoted to discussing what we want to do next with the Mary Crapo building, and let the board know, when that meeting would be scheduled. And so I could work with Chuck on that, and we could set a subcommittee together and really just kind of talk about what are the plans that we want to do moving forward. Because right now, we have continued ownership of the parcel and the property. And so we're getting quotes on demolition and those things, but it's really about, trying to get our stuff, ducks in a row, and get things in place so that we know, what's going to be coming up and what we want to do. So if you're comfortable with that, we can establish a subcommittee. Even just the operations committee could meet and start to deliberate.
I think me and Brian and Jessica have got a good handle on it.
Yep.
Report to the rest of the board.
Yeah. That could
It needs to move forward. I know that. This is, yeah.
So maybe at our next operations meeting, we could spend some time addressing that.
Maybe you'll have some RFPs by then.
Maybe.
I think the prices are gonna go up because when we got the informal prices a year ago with help and everything like that.
For sure.
I think that, and with Carrie's blessing, if anybody has any concerns, just send it to the operations committee so we can bring it up or have them show up or whatever, if there's something different that we don't know about.
Yeah.
But I think the board's kind of in agreement.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay, unless there are objections. Okay. Thank you, Chuck. Thanks, Jessica and Brian and Ben.
Yep.
All right, moving on. We have board action items, beginning with the approval of the 2022 board meeting calendar that we just discussed. I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Jack, I didn't hear who was second.
I second.
Chuck. All right. Any comments or questions? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the 2022 board meeting calendar as presented. Sue, could you do roll call, please?
Sure. Chuck Melkey,
Yes.
Carrie Germain,
Yes.
Jessica Lenave,
Yes.
John Sayer,
Yes.
Brian Sapanic. 5 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next, we have the approval of SCEA employment.
Well, this is an exciting time every time we get to do this, so I'll ask Mr. Kitchen to come up, and as he's coming up, I'll let you know that one of the things that had happened is that we had moved to add a fourth counselor to the high school, and it's been a very difficult job market for counselors, and so we did some internal shifting and filled that internally. Mrs. Blondell was there, which means that now we have had an opening in our ELA department. And so I'm excited to have Mr. Kitchen present us a new candidate.
Where'd Ms. Blondell go? I'm sorry.
She is in the counseling office doing a lot of the EDPs and a lot of the career prep
Good.
work.
She went from her.
English.
Yep,
English.
from English.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I'd like to introduce Veronica Klausmar to you. It's interesting that she was in Michigan, a teacher in Michigan. Her husband had to relocate to North Carolina. They kept her house here, and now he's relocating back to
Oh, boy.
It's a beautiful opportunity. She has 18 years of experience. All of her references talk about her ability to collaborate, the relationships that she builds with students.
Check, check. Yes, there we are. We're excited to add her to our team, especially with a teacher shortage, and we're looking at mid-year hire. We feel like we did a great job, and so I'd like for your consideration for hire to introduce you and to Veronica Klausmar.
Welcome, Veronica.
Thank you. Thank you. It is an honor and a privilege to be here, to be back home. I will say honestly that I am not loving the Michigan weather again. But I am so far loving the students at Swartz Creek. So it is a real honor and a privilege to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion
Make
for
a
approval.
motion to hire.
Support.
Chuck? Jessica? Any comments or questions?
Thank you for coming back to cold weather. They're staying in cold weather.
Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the SCEA employment of Veronica Klausmeyer, ELA teacher at the Swartz Creek High School as presented. Sue, could you do roll call, please?
Brian Sapanek? Yes. John Sayer?
Yes.
Chuck Melkey?
Yes.
Jessica Lene?
Yes.
Carrie Germain?
Yes. Welcome.
Welcome, Brian. Where's the hand sanitizer? We're all bitching about COVID. Hey, everybody's complaining about COVID and we're not doing anything. I know it can't be transmitted by touch, whatever. Just keep schools open.
All right, finally, we have the approval of a phone system purchase. And Ben, are you going to talk a little bit about
Sure.
that?
So this has been a long time coming. We are, if you ask Travis, we're on about 4 generations of phone systems overdue. And we have gone through the process of getting a really good partner with Mitel and Moss. And so Moss actually, this in front of you is all of the bidding documents to show all of the competitive bid process there. This is a bond project. It's for $251,000, and this will replace all of the phones in the district and turn them into what's called VoIP phones, which is going to make them digital and run on our network. It'll create more safety opportunities for teachers, you know, to be calling in emergencies and things like that. There are more options available to them with the digital technology. It's long overdue, and it's been a part of the bond budget and proposal for a long time, so we're excited to get this project kicked off, and hopefully, depending on shortages, we'll be able to get our phone system installed before the end of this school year.
Thanks, Ben. With that, I would entertain a motion for approval.
Just one, okay. I make a motion to approve it.
Chuck, any second?
Support.
Jessica? Now Chuck, comments or questions?
Thank you, Carrie. What's the life expectancy of this system, Travis, if you know?
5 to 8 years, potentially more. But the VoIP systems don't last as long as what we would have had with our old POTS type phone system.
That's my concern, but okay. Do we have money budgeted, Ben, for that in 8 years? Are we gonna do that out of sinking funds? Are we gonna do that out of, I don't know,
Yeah.
money somewhere else?
So it's a similar situation that we have with our bus fleet, right? And so actually in our technology department, we have a rotation. And the rotation includes computers, for example, and so we know that we have to budget a little bit each year and replace a little bit each year so that you're not replacing all of them at once. Something somewhat similar to the phone system. It's just over the years, as the difficult times of the finances has been, you know, prior to now, in not having bond funds available, the district has chosen to put that on the back burner, which has led to probably this phone system being 10 years beyond needing to be replaced. So there does need to be a systematic approach to saving a little bit, just like we do with our other assets, to make sure that when there's a purchase like that, because it'll be a general fund purchase 8 years from now. So.
Do we, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess my concern was is if Travis or you or whoever came up with the system, you're saying we're gonna do it out of general budget in 8 years. Are we gonna set aside money every year, or are we just gonna wait to the 8 years, or what's
The hope is
plan?
that you're going to be saving, and there's going to be a system like we have for our replacement of our technology assets, just like we have bus replacement schedules and things like that, so that you're budgeting from this board, you know, money each year that's going to be a part of that plan, and that money might be going into the fund balance, you know, to be, you know, sequestered for that.
Milo can just make sure Chris puts it in the budget every year so we don't get a spring on us at 5 to 7 years.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools approves the Moss phone system purchase for the purchase of $251,809 $978.08 as presented. Chris, could you do roll call, please?
John Sayer,
Yes.
Jessica Lenave,
Yes.
Chuck Melkey,
Yes.
Brian Sapanic. Yes. Carrie Germain.
Yes, motion passes. Thanks, everybody. All right, last, we have public comments. Anyone who wants to address the board, please stand, state your name, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Is there anybody? If you wouldn't mind afterwards, so Sue reflects who you are. And
housing unit for 40 places?
Did I address? Okay. Yeah, so we had a situation where they were a partner of ours and were unable to secure funding, at different times. So right now, the board has to decide, and that's part of the upcoming deliberations on what are the next steps with it. So, and obviously there's a multitude of potential options. One of which would be, the possibility of turning that into a community space park area. Another would be to see if there's another partner that might be able to move forward. Those projects are in the ballpark of $10 to $15 million. And so as a result of that, obviously it takes an entity that has access to some considerable grants, through the federal government, and that project would be approved, in what type of timelines you're dealing with. So I think the next journey for us is to kind of determine what those next steps would be, for the board, and then we'll be able to figure out, what that is. But at this time, the relationship with Communities First is dissolved. So it's about, what the next steps and what happens next with it. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Anytime.
thanks, Mr. Proposik.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm glad to hear that from
Thank
the
you
staff. That's
very much.
important. That's very important to hear.
All right. Moving on, we have an opportunity for comments and questions from the board. Anybody? Go ahead.
I forgot in my comments to mention the Little Dragons Learning Center and their cards and how adorable and delightful they were. So I'm so glad for all that our teachers do there. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I want to thank everybody for the appreciation today. It's always nice. It's always nice to feel that appreciation when we work hard to make things right in the school. Thank you.
Good. Go ahead, John. Or do you want me to go?
Well, I guess I would just like to kind of echo what Michelle said, and thank you guys, the rest of the board here, for kind of working with me and coming to a compromise so that we can keep our schools open. Obviously, that's the goal, is to keep our schools open always and make sure that we are providing a quality education to all of our students. I just want to thank you guys for coming to that compromise with me and being open to that. I appreciate that from you guys.
Thanks, Jack. All right, before we end, thanks, Elena, for your report and all the work you're doing. Thanks to our wonderful administrators, and that includes everybody here in the audience and our staff, our teachers, our students who came tonight. Mr. Luke, they were amazing. Thank you so much. I was so impressed by the presentations of our students who are in the construction program, and I know that we're talking about how successful that has been. And there might be something coming to us in the future to expand that program. Very exciting. And to see the diversity of the students that are interested in it and You know, like I said, I probably could have cut my finger off in 8th grade in woodshop if I hadn't been, I did cut it, but not could have cut it off. But thank you for all that you do and your commitment to our students. And Michelle, to your point, I don't think we want anything more than having students in their classrooms with their teachers on a daily basis and to be able to have that experience and not have the uncertainty. And we know that the parents don't want the uncertainty either. We just want this to be over. I think all of us just want it to be over. And let's just hope that in the next month or two, we'll start to see, you know, some answers that we were looking for. And I know, Ben, you didn't talk about it extensively, but you said that we might be getting tests tomorrow. And we do know that, you know, that will be important to keeping students and staff in school. And then I know you and I have talked about, you know, maybe, and you've been sharing information about vaccines or clinic opportunities. And, you know, we can talk more about that as a board. And I know I will continue to talk about it, just making sure that families know where they can go. And I know it's been challenging and lots of lines and things like that. So anything else you'd like to share with regard to testing?
Just that that has been the biggest burden is the shortage of tests, and it's not a Swartz Creek issue. The shortage of tests is nationwide. As the cases go up there, you know, they can't produce them fast enough because they do have a shelf life. So it's going to be great to get those tests in because that, again, to what everyone here has said, keeps kids in school and allows us to come to school safely. So I'm excited about it.
All right. Anything else? Anyone else?
Oh, you want me to say something?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't say anything about all the kids because I don't want to break down and cry. And I don't want nobody to see me cry because I teared up. They did a wonderful job. Every group, every high school, middle school, all the elementaries. And it just showed me that our teachers, our staff, our administrators are committed to keeping the schools open, keeping our kids face to face. I appreciate that. I'm going to do everything I can. I know some people would want the schools closed, but it's not right. And we know that deep down in our hearts. The kids are already suffering enough, and that's who's suffering. And our job here is to assure that these kids are safe and they get a good education, and we can't do that without our staff. And our staff's doing a wonderful job, and we'll give you all the support we can with extra people and hiring people. And that was my comment, but Jessica started tearing up, so I didn't want to follow up on her. And she did a great job, but I do have one quick question. How are we doing on bus drivers, for God's sakes? That might shut down the school if we can. But you know what? That won't shut down the school because I've talked to a lot of other school districts that are shutting down, and they're saying, oh, it's our bus drivers. I think the parents would still bring their kids to school. At least in our district, they'll find a way to carpool and bring everybody to school. As long as we keep those doors open for our children.
Yeah. We just hired 2 in the last few weeks, and so I appreciate all your recruitment efforts.
I'm going to every sub shop in Flint Township, and I tell them, hey, come on, work for us. $22 an hour. It's a great, everybody hates me in Flint Township, but I'm going around all the businesses trying to steal their employees, but I want the schools open. So great. Thank you guys very much. I super appreciate it. And thank the board. I think the board is clicking really well together. We're all on the same page, and that makes me not feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Thanks, Chuck.
Let's get it over with. Yeah, that's all right.
So I did miss one person, and that's Travis. Travis, thanks for all you do. And thanks for the work you've done on finding us a phone system that is in this century. And I know that everybody will appreciate that. So I want to thank you for all that you do behind the scenes so well. And with that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is that Chuck and Brian? Any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.